Hey guys, good morning. It is Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. It is 10:57 a.m. on this Pacific coast, if you will, the West Coast, if you will, Pacific time. Like I said, on this Wednesday, November 12th, it is sunny outside, kind of not, very, not so cloudy as it was earlier when I did my uh, audio discussion reaction to the Mario Galaxy movie teaser trailer. But before we get into the topics here, let me ask you to do me a solid favor if you can, and that's like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. Also, guys, if you would like, you can go into the description and click on the links there to help support me outside of YouTube. If you'd like to listen to me on your favorite podcast, I'm available on various other podcasts. I know I got to get some new episodes onto the podcast series. Don't worry, I have enough audio saved up. I think I'll be able to, I'll be able to rectify that real soon. Um, but yeah, if you want to listen to me on your favorite audio platforms, you can find me at iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and to an extent, Sirius XM. Basically, wherever there's a podcast to be found, you can find mine there. You can also find me at other video outlets outside of YouTube, like Rumble.com and VENMO.com. Both those platforms have similar, if not identical, content to what you see here on the main YT, as well as it has content that may not be so YouTube friendly, so you might be able to check it out there if you would like. Or you will be able to check it out there, I should say, if you would like. Also, you can find me at Dailymotion and Odyssey. Those are two other platforms I'm on as well. I also have a Twitch.tv, which you can find content on there as well. I have to reactivate that or get that going again. As well as I have a Kick.com, which is kind of like a backup to Twitch.tv. I also have a Patreon. If you want to help support me over at Patreon, it'd be greatly appreciated. Also, you can find me at DeviantArt at BVW1979 and at InkBunny.net at BWRosas. You can also follow me through TikTok, Twitter, aka X.com, and Blue Sky. You can find me on those areas as well. And if you would like to go and check out my online stores, I have two online stores. One is the new Fourth Wall store. That's been open for about a month or so now. Got a couple of items there. Two graphic tee items and some non-graphic items. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. And also, ladies and gentlemen, I have a Teespring store. Link is at the bottom to that. That's been around for a couple of years now. So go in if you would like to check those out, get some items for yourself or items for your loved ones or whatever for Christmas. Go to those stores. I think you'll find something that you will like. Again, Fourth Wall store link's at the top. Teespring store link is at the bottom. Also, ladies and gentlemen, you can also chime in during the video premiere in the live chat if you would like. As well as if you would like, you can also donate through SuperChats. That's right, SuperChats will be open during the live chat here. Also, during both the video premiere and afterwards, comments will be open. So if you want to chime in that way, that'd be greatly appreciated as well. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to donate but you don't get here in time for the video premiere, then you can still do so by going through the Super Thanks down below with the little heart and dollar sign in the middle. But with that said, as I check the time here, let's get on to the topic at hand, shall we? Alright, so speaking of the Mario Galaxy teaser this morning, I'm sure a lot of people have been asking since it was announced a couple months ago that we were going to get the Mario Galaxy, because that's what it was. It was announced, I think, back, what was it? Was it September? It wasn't September, was it? It wasn't September. I think it may have been August, September. I got to go back and check. But it was a couple of months ago, that they announced we were going to get Mario Galaxy as the sequel to the Mario Brothers movie. But obviously a lot of questions arose from that. One of the questions obviously is why are we fast forwarding so quickly to Mario Galaxy? Why not take our time to get to that point? What about other characters like Daisy and Waluigi and Wario, which, Wario I still believe is in this movie. I don't know why. I think I've heard that somewhere. But, what about Waluigi and, like I said, Daisy and a few others? Like, The Koopa kids. We know Bowser Jr.'s in this one, but what about the other Koopa kids, if you will? What their status? Basically the question. People are wondering, well, what's the rush and everything? And excuse me there. And I think the reason for the sudden advancement, if you will, to Mario Galaxy is because of what was hinted at in the first movie by Peach. Peach basically told Mario when they were in the field of fire flowers that basically there's a whole lot of galaxies, a whole lot of other galaxies out there. Basically hinting, that there are other worlds that have yet to be explored. And with the first movie, we also pretty much got an origin, somewhat of an origin, of how Peach became princess, of her world. How she became princess of the Mushroom Kingdom, and everything. Because basically, as baby Peach, she wandered into this world through a portal. So basically the circumstances of where she came from was a complete mystery. I mean, even Mario in the film probably hinted at, hey, maybe you're from my world and everything. And Peach didn't deny whether or not that could be true, but pretty much did hint that maybe she comes from somewhere else, outside of Mario's world. But but now the question is, is that but now the question again is that why we're suddenly fast forwarding to Galaxy instead of taking our time? And I would say yes. I would say in a way yes. That's probably why they're fast forwarding. That's why they're bringing in Rosalina. That's why they're bringing in Bowser Jr. That's why they're bringing in other characters. But mostly, But mostly Rosalina, who's going to be voiced by Brie Larson, and she's going to be, voicing counteracting towards Anna Taylor-Joy, who's voicing Peach again. At least we think she is. But what I'm getting at is, she makes these references, or not references, but she says these lines and everything, as well as makes these references to other galaxies and all that. Talks about how she came into the kingdom and everything, and she's not sure where she actually is from, and all that. So to me, that's why when you look at Galaxy, as confusing, as frustrating as it might be to a lot of people, of why not take our time, build up to it, and everything. Why not include Daisy? Why not bring Daisy in first? And the Koopa kids, and and this and that and what's the rush? Again, it all goes back to that one, to that one line, to that scene in the field of fire flowers, if you will. It goes back to that one moment, that one scene, and everything there, and potentially hinting, that we may eventually find out where she actually comes from. Now, I know some people might say, well, what if it turns out she's the daughter of Rosalina? What if it turns out she's the daughter of Rosalina? That could be something interesting that's not been explored before. Because for all we know, when it comes to, Mario Galaxy, there is a connection, but, Rosalina is still looked at in the same veins as Peach. She's still looked at as a princess, if you will. Same as Daisy. So you gotta wonder, again, if there is a connection, is it a motherly daughter connection, or is a sister connection, or what, or is Rosalina, just part of something more when it comes to Peach? Like basically, she's part of a whole galaxy of princesses that are tasked to watch over the worlds they're sent to as children, and that maybe Rosalina could have been the first one ever assigned to do that. Thus is the reason why she, as depicted in the trailer, is as powerful, as what she is. You have to, you have to think, you have to, kind of speculate on that. Think about, that being a possibility. I mean, again, we go back to that line. And that opened a lot, and let's be honest, that opened up a lot of questions for fans to ask, like, okay, what does Peach mean by not knowing how she got there and everything? And what does she mean by there's a whole bunch of other galaxies out there? What is she alluding to? What is she talking about? And obviously, what she's alluding to and talking about is what we're going to get here in the film, in the second film. So, to me, it's going to be interesting to see how they explore this. But I can tell you right now, it definitely feels like just based off the trailer, just based off the trailer and everything, it definitely feels like what we're getting is going to be a very, I wouldn't say peach-centric, but more of a peach-oriented story. In other words, I feel what we're going to get here is, yeah, she's going to be doing a lot of battling, and it looks like she's going to get outnumbered by these ninja star characters. I can't think of the name. She's going to get overwhelmed and everything. It does look like that, but the way they've made her turn out to be in the past, and we see it in the trailer, she can handle herself. She can get out of a situation like that herself. So, so I think when we really get down to it with this film, it's going to be more Princess Peach based and centric than than the first film. The first film was basically, an introduction, like an introduction to not just the movie interpretation of these characters, but also just an introduction to, Mario and Luigi, themselves and them being in the environment they're going to be in. That's what it was. Here, we're now going to be exploring, I think, stories that are going to be mostly centered on certain characters, and in this case, it's going to be Peach. It's going to be Peach and the connection she has with Rosalina. Because why would you bring Rosalina in, in the second movie, whether it's Galaxy or not, whether it's based, whether it's mostly based on Galaxy or not? Why bring her in if you weren't going to explore that origin, give, potentially Peach the answers that she, has been wanting, she's been, wanting to have answers, give her the answers to the questions. That's what I'm trying to say. Give her the answers to the questions that she's been wanting answers to. I do apologize. I'm still kind of waking up a little bit and everything. I've been awake for a couple of hours, but you know how it is when you don't have much to do outside of, content creation. You get bored, you get a little tired, you want to rest and all that. I do apologize. But anyway, like I said, why not, why bring her in here if you weren't going to, explore that option, really giving Peach the answer she's looking for. So when I look at this movie, and I know people, as I said earlier, ask the question of why fast forward so quickly, to Galaxy and not take your time to it, because a lot of people would look at Galaxy and think, oh, that's a movie that should be looked at as like the Avengers of the Nintendo Cinematic Universe or the Mario Cinematic Universe. That should be looked at as like the Avenger-like film, build to it. And I understand that. But again, going back to what I said earlier, and I know I'm being repetitive, I do apologize, but going back to what I said earlier, when you have her hint in the first film about other galaxies, when you have her talk about how she came to be who she is in the Mushroom Kingdom in her world, but not know where she came from, to me that opens the door not only to fans wondering, okay, are we going to get those answers potentially in the second film? Excuse me. Are we going to get those answers, in the second film? It makes people not only wonder that, but it makes fans, themselves speculate, okay, where does she come from? Does she come from Earth, like Mario hinted in the movie? Does she come from someplace else? And it looks like we're going to get those answers here. We're going to get those answers here, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it all ties together, in my opinion. But that's why I think the fast forwarding so quickly to Galaxy. That's why they're fast forwarding to it so quickly, because they want to get Peach's story out of the way, so that when that's out of the way, they can build to potentially bringing in Daisy in the next film. Because you can't tell me fans are not going to want to see Daisy or Birdo in future films, because they will. They want to see them in another Mario film. Excuse me. So you can't say that this isn't going to be like, okay, let's get her story out of the way, and now let's head for Daisy's story, or let's head for Birdo's story and everything. You can't tell me that's not going to be the plan, because I feel that's the direction they want to go in. I feel like that's what they want to do. Now they could say, hey, the third movie, which I think we will get a third movie, the third movie will probably, I know people might say it might be Rosalina's story. And that might be true. It might be Rosalina's story. It might be a story based on Mario and Luigi's lifelong rivalry with Wario and Waluigi. We don't know. We don't know, but to me, when I look at this film, when I look at this upcoming film in April 2026, I feel that what this is going to be essentially is very Peach centric. It's going to be very Peach centric, and it's going to probably give us along with Peach as a character, it's going to give us the answers to the questions that she was wondering since she arrived in the Mushroom Kingdom. Basically, where did she come from? And why was she sent there? Because if it's revealed, like I said earlier, that she might be part of this whole destiny, this whole prophecy of different princesses ruling over these different worlds in the galaxy, the Mario Galaxy, I guess you can call it. If she's part of this prophecy, of course she's going to want to know why. Why was she sent? At such a young age. Why didn't they wait till she was old enough and everything to have a better understanding? So I think that's why, in my opinion, we'll get in this movie. That's why I feel we'll get in this movie, a lot sooner than I think a lot of people would expect. Because a lot of people thought, oh, it's going to be Super Mario Brothers 2, it could be Super Mario Land, it could be Super Mario World, and everything. Everybody had those, rightful theories and speculation. They didn't expect Galaxy. But again, that one line she says in the movie pretty much, I think when you really think about it now, pretty much gave away what the next movie was going to be. And here it is. Here it is. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with this. Again, all we got here was a teaser trailer and all that. It didn't really tell us too much. It gave us an idea of what the characters, the new characters are going to sound like, who they're being voiced by, and everything. It really gave us, it gave us a bit of an appetizer as to what's to come in the next full trailer, which, as I said in my reaction, I believe is going to be shown during the Super Bowl. I just feel that's going to happen, or at least around that time frame. But to me, at the end of the day, I feel what we're going to get here with Mario Galaxy is we're going to get a good movie, a big movie, probably a little longer than the first one, on an epic scale, if you will. But I also feel like it's going to be very Peach centric, and it's going to result in Peach getting the answers to the question, that she's been wondering, where did she come from, and mostly why was she sent there, or why was she allowed to go there? So we'll see what happens. We'll see what they do, but to me, that's why they're going to this length, because I think, honestly, when you go back and watch the first movie, she says that line, to Mario, and obviously now when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense as to why, they're doing it. And at the end of the day, it's going to result in, I think, not just a good movie and not just her getting those answers along with us as viewers getting those answers, but it's also going to hint at a third movie, which could be, which could go in a variety of directions. It could be very Rosalina centric, tell her story. It could be very Mario and Luigi versus Wario Waluigi centric, and tell their story. It could be, the introduction of Daisy, because again, fans are going to want to see Daisy, and I think if we get an end credits with her popping into existence, or at least, being acknowledged, be talked to maybe by Rosalina and everything, and, Rosalina saying, hey, we found, your sister or your cousin, that, you can rule by or rule alongside with and everything to protect the galaxy. If we see something like that at the end of the at the after the end credits or during a mid credit scene at the end of the film. Then again, obviously, the third movie's got to be, a Daisy film. It's got to be, basically an introduction to Daisy in the Mario cinematic universe. So I think so. Honestly, though, I feel that's why they, because again, I know people are wondering why rush so quickly to Galaxy, when it could have, when they could have done this or that. Again, these are just my thoughts as to why I feel, through speculation and theory, why they did it. And again, when you go back to that one line in the first film, I think pretty much now when you look back on it, that was pretty much our hint. That was our clue as to what the next movie would be. But that's all I can really say, guys. I do apologize if I was a little all over the place. Like I said, I'm still kind of tired, still kind of waking up a little bit, even though it's been a couple of hours and all that. But again, when you get relaxed and everything, and all that, and you're just, taking your time, applying for jobs here and there and everything, courtesy of places like Indeed and all that. When you're doing that and you're just relaxing, of course you get, a little tired, a little bit, more so than you were, or not more so than you were, but basically a little less than what you were. Your brain kind of has to, get back to reactivating. So you have to drink a little coffee here and there to do that, and that's what I did before starting this. But anyway, let me know what your thoughts are on what I had to say here. Do you believe and agree? Do you believe and agree that basically, with Peach saying that line in the first film, that was the hint of what the second film was going to be, and that this second film will be very, I would say 75%, maybe 70% Peach centric, Peach focused, and her finding out about her origins, courtesy, of a connection with Rosalina. Do you think it'll be because it's a prophecy? You got to have princesses in all these different worlds to guard the galaxy, guard those worlds and the galaxy as a whole? Let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are about the whole situation down below in the comment section if you haven't already in the live chat. And until next time, guys, do me a solid favor, like I said at the beginning, like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. And click on the links in the description to find my content also outside of YouTube and to support me outside of YouTube as well. And super thanks will be open if you want to donate that way if you didn't get here in time for the video premiere. But guys, give me your thoughts, and until next time, I am out.